and welcome to Let's Talk Spoop. I'm your host, Don, and today we're going to talk about The Hole in the Ground, which I watched on HBO Max. I want to say, did I not write it down? I did not write it down. I believe I watched it on HBO Max. I could be wrong on that. As per usual, on Let's Talk Spoop, we break things down into six separate categories. Those six separate categories are story, acting, music, atmosphere, look, and finally, creep. So, without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into The Hole in the Ground. So it starts with a lady and her son at some sort of carnival, uh, and then they like leave, and it's this long road that they're driving down with some really good creepy music. This is an A24 production that I'd never heard of. The music definitely starts to get you into the story almost immediately. And then they almost hit a lady in the middle of the road. They're like, oh, what is going on here? Nothing important. They just almost hit some lady. It turns out that they've moved and the dad did not come along. It's just the mom and the son. The son's a little upset about this. So they get into an argument and the son runs off and mom goes chasing him, and their house is bordered by this massive, massive forest. So they run into this forest, and suddenly, she starts to like see some stuff in the forest, and she's like, "This is kind of weird," but she keeps going. She gotta find her son, and they get to this massive hole in the ground, this massive sinkhole. It's huge. And then she turns around, he's right there, and she's like, "Don't ever run away from me again." He's like, "I'm so sorry," and you're like, "All right, cool, everything's good." They get back home, everything seems fine. She's starting to get a little anxious, though, a little scared and upset. And then 2 days later, her son, she wakes up and she can't find her son. She's searching the house, cannot find him. So she goes in the woods to look for him. And she starts to freak out because, again, woods are creepy. So she goes back to the house, she calls the cops, and she's like, hey, my son's missing. I think somebody might have took him. And as she's on the phone with the cops, she turns around and her kid is standing right behind her. But is he? And then it kind of builds on her kind of going a little nuts because she's not really sure if her kid is actually her kid. So it's a classic changeling story out of Ireland. Um, changeling, as in the fey creature, common in Celtic folklore, not changeling as in the movie starring Angelina Jolie or the Ghost story from the 80s. Classic change. I really appreciated the ending. I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen it yet. Like I said, it's an A24 production, so it's probably good if you like A24. So I don't want to spoil the ending. However, I did appreciate that this movie ends. It doesn't have one of those like everything's safe or is it dun 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 endings because I hate those kind of endings. This did not have that. It ended for real and for good, and I appreciated it. So tree point 5 out of 5 for story. Acting. It's good. Limited cast. It's mostly the mom, the son, the neighbors, plural, and then some other random people. So it's a fairly small cast. They did a lot with it. They did a good job. I was fairly invested. So 3.5 for acting. Music, great. The music really sets the tone for this movie. It grabs your attention, has you watching the whole way through. 4 out of 5 for music. Atmosphere, but like I said, between the music and the acting, I was completely engaged in this movie. So 5 out of 5 for atmosphere. Look, there's not really much to report on look. You don't really get a good look at the creatures throughout the whole movie, which they went with like kind of the classic horror movie trope of not showing you what it is that you're afraid of until the last possible moment. So they did a good job there, but other than that, there's not really much to talk about for the look. 2.5. For a look. I may be a little bit generous, but I really enjoyed this movie. And then Creep. This had a pretty good creepiness factor. I like movies that kind of delve into bringing the supernatural into the psychological. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 for Creep, which gives us a grand total of 3.5 out of 5 for Hole in the Ground.